Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, AM 1570 here in BaltimorePositive.com. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, taking it out on the road. Now, we're doing a little hiatus right now because of this Oriole baseball thing and all the uncertainty around October. But the Maryland Lottery is with us every step of the way. We're at Coco's this week from 2 until 5 in Lauraville. My dear friend Mike Resigliano is going to come out. We're going to talk some Oriole madness. Max Weiss from Baltimore Magazine wrote an Oriole bandwagon piece. We'll be doing that this week. Also, our friends at Window Nation as well as Jiffy Lube putting us on the road. And it is our 25th anniversary. The cupcake and the fireworks tell you so out in front. And our 25th anniversary is all brought to you by our newest sponsor, our friends at Curio and Far and Daughter. You probably passed them out on York Road, just south of Timonium. If you're going out to Trifecta this weekend as well in the rain, you can find them there. Curio Wellness is our sponsor. You can find them out on the web at CurioWellness.com as well. Used to be medical. As of this summer, it's for everyone. Wendy Bronfein is joining us here. I call this an educational series. And one of the reasons first off, love the sponsorship, love the association, all that, but I love the education part of this. Last week, we just talked basically about, hey, doors are open, let's beware and what we're looking for here. But from a medical perspective and for folks who've had a car in a couple of years, a lot of this education came their way a few years ago when legalization came on here. Wendy, it's good to have you back on. How are things in fall? Kids back to school, fair's over with, and really sort of settling in to this new concept that people can drive by Far and Daughter, drive by anywhere where Curio products are sold, and walk in and experience a different kind of medicine.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good to be into, the beginning of, I guess we're nearing the fall season. And it's been constant increase in traffic that we've seen as people continue to learn about this. So this is a great platform to also make people aware, because part of what we know is that not everyone is aware of the change, right? We were a medical program and now we are a medical and adult use program. So both parties are have this product accessible to them. You can still continue to sign up as a patient, and that affords you certain benefits that adult use patrons do not have. But if you're over 21, you can enter a licensed dispensary in Maryland and purchase cannabis products.
Adult usage. I need to get the right terms here together. That's medical and adult use, correct? Those are the two terms.
Yes. Yeah. There you go.
She's got her Here We Grow shirt. Here's what I want to ask you from the beginning of all of this, because a couple of years ago we did some marketing together, and I always see the guys in the white suits. Maybe there's gals too in the white suits at the grows and the facilities. Tell everybody where this stuff comes from. Let's just start with that, because everybody knows the plant and the 5 leaves. And I have a whole Amsterdam story because I have a relative going to Amsterdam about smoking versus vaping and edibles. But the fact that this is grown and now comes in gummy form. By the way, you guys want to make a fortune? We need a pumpkin spice version for fall is what we need on the flavoring. But there's all different ways to consume this. And God bless my mother, who died 98, 5 years ago. She came back as a patient, as an older, the understanding of smoking weed and reefer madness 100 years ago and all that, to where refined cannabis and where the drug part of this, and your family was always in the pharmaceutical business, where the drug part of this has a real benefit, and a plant, literally a plant that you grow here locally right down the street, that there's a grow, and that the strain and the science behind this is really kind of extraordinary from where maybe we would have thought this would have been 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, so just to give an overarching perspective, right, there are 3 types of licenses in the state. One is to cultivate, that's to grow the plant. One is the processor, that's to extract the oil from the plant and make products. And then the third is the dispensary, which is the retail where consumers and patients go to purchase cannabis-based products. So we have all 3 licenses. We grow the plant in Baltimore County. We also convert it to oil and make products in Baltimore County. And then we ourselves have 2 stores, Far and Daughter in that same area in Baltimore County, as you spoke of, in Timonium, and as well as in Elkton, Maryland, a store named Farm Kent. There are then over 90 other dispensaries in the state, and our products are readily available across the state in dispensaries.
Well, when it came on to say we're going to grow and we're going to learn how to do this, I mean, it's a horticultural, right? I mean, it's science at the highest level to try to grow the best plants that create the intended outcome, correct? I mean, and it's
Yeah.
not, I mean, look, growing up in Dundalk in the 70s and 80s and what was ever going on illicitly, it was just like a plant and green and it, Ozzy Osbourne sang about it or whatever, right? Like, but it's so much more strain specific and scientific in a way that I guess to talk apples and oranges or fruits, the way that my wife came home with 15 different kind of tomatoes last week, orange ones and green ones and red ones, a different strain. It literally, from a plant perspective, there's just such a wide variety of ways that the plant can be used. And all of these have really, in your family and in your business at Curio, in the last few years, sort of refining this. And it's still coming along. You're still creating things that maybe 10 years ago they didn't even know about, right?
Yes, so on everything starts obviously from the plant material, right? That's what you use to extract oil, and that's also what people buy as flour. So when you're talking about that variety and strains, we have a high volume of strains in our catalog of in terms of we call them the genetics, right? And so those are what you grow. We grow them indoors, in an environment where the plants and the people keep everything very clean relative to growing this product that someone ultimately is going to ingest, right? And where we started truly as a medicine and now as also an adult use product. But the strains themselves, there's a lot of variety there. And the way that the consumer, the patient sees that is when they get to the store, because on that label, not only are you going to have a name, but you're going to have a profile of what's in that strain, right? And that's the mix of cannabinoids and terpenes that show up in that strain. And that profile is what tells you kind of what you're going to experience, right? Is it very high in THC, right? That's linked to more psychoactivity. Are there minor cannabinoids like CBG or CBN or CBC or CBD that show up that also have therapeutic properties? And then with the terpenes, that's really where your effects conversation comes into play. So if you're looking to purchase a flower or a vape or even one of our terpene chews, that terpene profile is telling you how you're going to feel. So you walk in and you say, I want to be sedated. I need to relax. I need my body to relax. I need my mind to relax. Or I ultimately want to get to sleep. That's a terpene profile you're looking for. You're on the other end. You need to be energized. You want to feel alert, focused. You want to correct your mood. Again, the terpenes, anti-inflammatory and other kind of therapeutic things that you're looking for from the product, also in the terpenes. And Maryland is unique here in that you can visit other states, whether they're medical or adult use programs, and that label isn't as specific as we are here in Maryland. And so that information about those cannabinoids and terpenes tells you and the person who works at the dispensary everything you need to know about how you can expect to feel from this product.
Well, I went to Colorado years ago, right after my wife's illness, and it was like, it's all fun, right? It's you go in, you try this, do that, you can do something you could never do, you feel a little naughty or whatever. But more than that, like the edibles and the chocolates and gummies and stuff, I'm like, well, what is this? Well, it just has THC in it. Well, what's it going to do to me? And I think that part of that, maybe watching Reefer Madness 50 years ago and thinking, I don't want to be paranoid. I don't want to be knocked out. Some of those properties that an indica would have that you learn more about. And I would say this more than anything for anybody listening to Wendy and I over Curio is that there's so much to learn, right? And it's expensive. It's not, this isn't a hobby or a cheap activity. This is something like where you should want to be more educated, and you can be more educated. And there was very little education on this as I went to Colorado 7, 8, 9 years ago, to where you don't even make products like that here anymore, where you have, and we talked about this last week, and I'm happy to bring this up because you're going to talk more about vapes and a lot of different things this week, where these have specific properties, gummies, that tell you exactly what's going to happen. And it's not the wild, wild west, maybe the way it was 10 years ago, where I'm like, I don't know what's in that chocolate.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think that what we've seen is over time, people are looking for that specificity, right? And, both on the medical side and in the adult use side, there are other areas of your life where you look for a specific solution based off of your needs and wants or goals, right? So if it's therapeutic, right, you go into a pharmacy and a specific part of your body hurts and you know the exact type of product to solve for that. And in cannabis, you can find that solution as well. And we specifically have tried to narrow that lens and really kind of put person to product in a targeted way versus just like, hey, here's 5 milligrams, see if it works. But beyond that, if you look at the adult use lens, I think kind of to what you were saying before about that variation in the strain, that is almost like the person who's like a wine connoisseur, right? You're like, there's a nose, right? How does the flower smell? There's a taste. What kind of flavors are coming through? Then you get into the type of effects that you're getting for it. Is it, and even more so, you could say, does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? Like there is that nuance, and people sort of gravitate towards certain lanes that they like better in that experience. And there is an element of trial and error, which is why on the flower side, if you're new, pre-rolls are a great option because it's just one pre-rolled what people would call a joint, and you're getting a smaller sample to say, do I like this strain? Do I like the taste, the smell, and its effects? And if you do, then yeah, go back and buy it in an eighth or a quarter or a half ounce, however much, legally you can purchase. But you can kind of get more of a sampling set before you commit. If you know what you like, there's tons of volume to buy in the market as well.
Wendy Bronfein is here. She is with Curio Wellness and our friends at Far and Daughter. If you're over in the Timonium area, or even up in the Elkton area, they have a dispensary up there as well. I guess the last thing for me on that would say that the first time I met you and came in contact with Curio as the front store 5 years ago, and I went in, you had this giant classroom with a blackboard, and like the educational part of this, it's imperative, right? I mean, it's just you want every person that comes in to be as educated as possible so that they find what they want. I mean, again, people aren't there for kicks. It's too expensive for that. I think I really believe that there's education to be had, but it's so imperative for everyone in your place to be highly, and when I'm in your place, highly educated on all aspects of how to use the plant.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's like anything, food, cosmetics, tech, you want to be an educated consumer, right? That's just a general thesis. I think to speak to like the expensive, when you're talking about medical, right? A lot of people think about, well, my medicine has this copay, right? And so you think I have a $4 copay, that's how much the drug costs. That's obviously not how much the drug costs because your insurance company is paying for a lot of the drug costs. But here it's different. You are coming in and spending out of pocket, and that's why it's really important to us that therapeutically in you're finding something that really works for you and is that right fit. Now across whether it's adult use or medical, there are price points along the spectrum, right? So that pre-roll I referenced is a great entry level product, and you could be spending under $10 potentially to acquire. Whereas, the higher the volume of flower you purchase, the higher that expense will go up. And then even in product categories like vapes and chews and tablets and topicals, everything sits within a zone. So they often can find something within your price point that can work for you.
All right, so I got a little story. Got a relative of mine that I care about deeply. They're going to Amsterdam in a couple months, and they were asking me about food to eat and my favorite Thai place and an Indian joint that I ate at because I was there last year. And they asked me about shops and smoke shops, and I said, "Well, this place is great." She's like, "I don't smoke. I have to have an edible. I don't like to smoke." So for someone like that and in your place, and I know you have all sorts of products, but I think traditionally people think of flower, smoking, joint, bag, roll, bong, whatever your thought would be on that, that there's so many other ways that even in Amsterdam she'll be able to get the edibles and gummies. But for people that come in that don't smoke, that don't want to smoke, I know you have a lot of options, right?
Yeah, so if you're not interested in inhalation, whether it's through smoking flower or vaping flower or a vape itself of oil, then you can look towards topicals, which just go on your body like a cream or salve. You can use elixirs, which are a liquid suspension, right? So just like think about like cough syrup. You can do tablets. ones that you swallow, things that dissolve under your tongue. You can do gummies that you chew. I'm trying to think, am I forgetting any
I've
other
seen drinks
categories?
as well. I've seen,
Yeah,
yeah,
you can.
literally,
Yeah.
yeah.
So on the liquid type products vary between medical and adult use. So in adult use, there's a limitation of 10 milligrams. It has to be packaged in a 10 milligram serving. Whereas on the medical side, it's more like a cough syrup where there's multiple doses in a bottle and there's a line in the cap and you'd be pouring out the amount for your dose. But there is a variety of what I would call traditional dosage forms, right? So think of anything that you therapeutically in the pharmacy, any method that you can administer there, you can probably find in the dispensary. So you can just swallow something, drink something, rub it on your body. You don't have to smoke it or inhale it.
Well, being a concert goer and having indoor, outdoor concerts at ball games, places I am, vaping, maybe controversy about it as well, but certainly not as much smoke. And certainly from a cigarette perspective, even, I don't go in and have places smell like pool halls anymore. I would say my experience in walking through Baltimore, even at a couple ball games last week, walking around the city, vaping is where a lot of folks are going, right? And I would think that you make a lot of these. I've often wondered, and I need to come out to your facility one day, put a white suit on. That science part of grow in the facility and your storefronts, it's that middle place where all of these products are made through science and in laboratories. The vaping part of the oil is something I don't really understand it as well. Burning, not burning, burning the flower versus inhaling the vapor. Vapes are popular, and I would think that that's something that 20 years ago we would have never thought about that, right?
Yeah, so I got to do a public service announcement, which is by law, public use of cannabis is not legal, right? It's legal to own it and have it in your private space, but you know, technically you're not supposed to be out on the street or
Well,
at
when I
events
see
doing
people on
it.
the street, maybe it's vaping,
Maybe it's cigarettes. Yeah,
cigarette. It could
yeah, you
be,
never
but
know.
I'm just saying
Yeah,
I don't smell people burning, not joints, not
right.
cigarettes.
No,
It
and
like
that's
out in public, you don't smell it ever, right? Really?
so here's like an interesting kind of anecdote. During COVID, when we were all in lockdown, vape sales went down because the need for discretionary use was not there, right? You were in your home, you weren't leaving, and you didn't really care about the smell because you were in your house, unless there were other people that you live with that, didn't want to offend or know what you were doing. So, but then when we came out of COVID, we saw vapes rise again because they're very discreet. And honestly, a lot, you can have vapes that are through the strain specific lens where they're much more cannabis oriented. I would refer to them in their flavor and the palette of what you're consuming. And then you can have things that are more flavored where, like any kind of, flavored medicine, you hide the medicine with a sweet flavor, right? So I'm just going to do a little show and share here. Like these fused vapes that we make that are disposable all have a flavored palette. So you're kind of not tasting a cannabisy flavor. Maybe it tastes like apple or mango, whereas a Curio strain specific vape is going to be much more authentic to, if you like Purple Punch flower and you buy a Purple Punch vape, these should feel related to each other in their effects and palette. So you kind of can get all across the spectrum, but vape itself comes from the oil. So what we do is we take flower that came from our cultivation facility and it's sold to our manufacturing business. And over there, we take that flower and we extract it using a CO2 extraction process. That's important because CO2 is an FDA approved form of extraction. So everything we do is really through the lens of the future, right? We believe that this will change on the federal level and we believe we'll be governed by agencies like the FDA. And so we are operating that way today. And I share that because another popular way in our industry is to use hydrocarbons like butane, which can leave residual elements, and there's really not known data as to whether that consumption is safe or not, right? But we know that CO2 extraction is a safe form of extraction. So that extraction method is using CO2 at a supercritical state between a gas and a liquid. And out of that process, you get the oil. And then we further refine that oil for it's called distillation, to make a vape, right? So what we're doing is we're taking out kind of the plant waxes and lipids, getting more of that earthy extras out of it so that we have a clean oil that's really just rich in the cannabinoids that were left behind. Now, before we do that, we take off the terpenes from the original flower because the extraction process can be volatile. And so you'd lose a lot of terpenes, and that's what people are looking for in that vape. So we have a proprietary method to extract those terpenes. So again, if I'm doing that Purple Punch vape, I would have captured the Purple Punch terpenes first. I would have done extraction to get oil and then reconstitute the two together to form the vape and be able to have a terpene experience that's very much akin to that which is in the flower, right? Because some people use both, right? And so you want to be able to have that mirrored experience between flower and vape. Vapes then are packaged in either 510 thread cartridges. I wish I had one to show you, but I don't. It's just a small little unit that twists onto a battery. And then, or they can be disposable, where the oil is in the unit that has the technology to run it, and you just put your mouth on it and pull or press a button. And once you're done with the oil, you throw the entire thing away. So like these fused vapes that I referenced, those are all a disposable style vape, where it's all contained in one unit, whereas our Curios are a 510 thread, and you're going to put that on your battery. And the Curios typically come in a 0.5 gram or a full gram.
Well, and I think from a vape perspective, there were a lot of people in that marketplace, like the old little Juuls and Pax Pods and different things like that, that the science of trying to make it as safe as possible, that you could vape and feel like you're getting a cleaner, like for my friend who doesn't smoke, a different kind of experience than a lighted smoking burning sensation, right?
Yeah, it's the palate is lighter. I think any pulmonologist would probably tell you they don't want you to inhale anything. But it is a cleaner method of inhalation than burning the flower and smoking it. I think one of the things with vapes that's important is we always talk about start low, go slow. If you're new to vapes, I definitely would take small, we'll call it inhales or sips, if you will, off of that vape, because when you are smoking flower, you feel more in your throat. And with a vape, because it's cleaner, you can't necessarily get that same sensation of how much you're pulling in, and you don't want to kind of have a coughing fit after. So you want to kind of take small draws and get the sense of what you're inhaling. The other thing to remember is a vape is more potent than flower, right? The potency of a vape is like upwards of 80% THC, right? So it's more concentrated. So you're not going to need to inhale as much to get the same effects as if you were smoking.
Give your basic warning to everybody that they come in for the first time. What do you say to people who have very little education about this and say, I've tried all sorts of things to get to sleep. What is that good night product you have?
Yeah, so Good Night is a line of products that are targeted towards sleep, and they all use a blend of two cannabinoids, THC and CBN. CBN is a cannabinoid that has been shown to have sedating properties and aid in sleep. So in that collection of Good Night that we have a few different types of products. We have it in a vape, which I have here. I can show you if you're watching us. This is the Good Night vape box. Then we have it in a gummy, a chew, and then we have it in our pulse release tablet. And the pulse release tablet is the first product we created in this line. It was created to address falling and staying asleep. So what
I
it
love
does is
this, by the way. I love when you explained this to me last week, and I'm like, all right, so it's sort of time released, which I think we're all familiar with buying something
yeah.
in a pharmacy that would say this is a 12-hour tablet or whatever, right?
Correct. So the idea is when we surveyed a lot of Maryland patients around sleep issues, there were sort of two buckets, and a lot of people felt both of them. the falling and the staying asleep. So the way the tablet works is you would take it 30 minutes before bed. It has an immediate release, which helps you fall asleep. And then it has a second pulse that comes 3 hours later that helps you stay asleep. And when we did this independent trial a few years ago when we were making the product, what we saw was even for those people who say got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, before that would have been an event where it was like, I got up to pee and now I can't get back to sleep. Whereas now it's like, I forgot that I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, right? Like there's no issue getting back to sleep if you wake up for a lot of people. People also cut down in their naps and overall felt more rest in the day. And then one of the things that we were trying to work towards when we talked to patients was when they were taking prescription things, they felt groggy and hungover the next day. And so this was that tablet was also trying to solve for that problem as well. But if you're looking, if you're just interested in vape, the Good Night line does also include a vape. And that would have that CBN and THC blend.
All right. Well, she's here to educate us. Wendy Bronfein can be found at Curio Wellness and sometimes over at Far and Daughter in Timonium as well. Last elevator speech for you. What's next? I guess, we'll be doing this educational series and talking about all these issues week to week, but over the hill, what happens next from a product standpoint?
So we have a product innovation team. And so aside from that group is looking at kind of a lot of different spaces. Sometimes it's new partners like these Flower by Edie Parker vapes that we just launched. That's a new outside partner who we're making their products here in the state. Sometimes it's a line extension, right? So that would be something like we already make chews, but this fall we release a new flavor, or next spring we put out a new flavor. So
pumpkin spice in the fall is what we need to do.
Right. And
peppermint at Christmas. I'm just thinking like that.
Yeah. No, I know it's been discussed. We actually had apple spice as our fall flavor a few years ago. And then
I'm an eggnog guy, but I'm weird. Nobody would buy eggnog, but I would.
I would join you in it. I would join you in the
Hey, we're Baltimore. Go with an egg custard. Let's get
exactly. And then the last would be literally a whole new product category, right? And something that we're working on right now behind the scenes is a line of products targeted towards women. And so that would be something to look for in the new year.
All right. Well, I like women. Half my world's women. Wendy Bronfein is here. She's in that half as well. You can find her over at Curio Wellness. Part of our sponsorship of our 25th anniversary. This week, number 24, our Purple Magic at the barn and all of our great memories there, as well as our community service over 25 years. You'll be seeing pictures, things out on social media. And as soon as I get Jessica, my web developer from Arthur Designs, over the COVID bug, I'm going to get those Curio and Far and Daughter logos out into the front of the 25th anniversary box. That is coming. As well as playoff baseball around here. Wendy, I bring you on, and sometimes we feel like we need to have some talking points. You just know so much about all of this coming in from the beginning. It's been really educational. I really appreciate the time spent with you this week.
Thank you. It's great to see you this week.
Got a great shirt too. Here we grow. I'm going to get I'm a blunt person shirt that I've seen over at Curio Wellness at Far and Daughter as well. You can find me out on the Maryland Crab Cake Tour presented by our friends at the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with Window Nation. That's 86690 Nation. Get your windows done. It's chilly outside. I love my windows right now. And our friends at Jiffy Lube. We got a new sponsor and partner as well for our Crab Cake Tour. We're at Coco's this week with Mike Rosigliano and my friend Max Weiss, as well as Roz from the Lottery's coming out with her husband, longtime listener Greg from Northeast, talking Oriole baseball, as well as our friend Liz and Marcella over at Coco's talking about those 11-ounce crab cakes that they have there. I'll be the guy eating the coconut shrimp and the big cheeseburger in paradise as well. But the Maryland Crab Cake Tour at Coco's this week, and to be determined, much like the Orioles postseason seedings and matchup and schedule, which is why I'm to be determined on the Crab Cake Tour, because Luke and I are going to be going anywhere the Orioles go. I'm Nestor. We're WNST AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.